right, we got a bunch of suggestions. I have over 40 suggestions. That's a pretty good list. That's a pretty hefty list. I'm interested in listening to Cloud Cascade by Invent Animate. I think I've heard an Invent Animate song. I have to refresh my memory. Let's see here. Invent Animate. Yeah, they reminded me of older North Lane, which I'm a big fan of old North Lane. New North Lane, not as into. There's a few things I still like about them, but I'm just old North Lane with what's his face, you know, original vocalist. I'm just all about it. So I know Invent Animate. White Wolf is a sick song. That's a really, really cool song. So I've never heard Cloud Cascade, and that's a new one. So they're putting out new music. Haven't heard it. Let's have a listen. By the way, I've had these things for years, and they're starting to fall apart. It makes me really sad. But they still work, so I'm just going to keep them until they literally stop working. All right, here we go. Invent Animate, Cloud Cascade. I remember them singing before, so that's new. Okay, now it's grooving. That intro didn't groove for me, but now I feel it. It still sounds like them. I like that. Even with the singing. I don't remember singing.
I know it wasn't good for me. Knowing that the rain showered me on.
I like that room reverb on the drums. That's nice. Articulation. Some articulation there. That's really cool looking. The music video is pretty cool. It's presented in a very artistic way. That's cool. Feels like the intro groove. Okay. All right. Cool. For some reason, the overall end impression that I'm getting is that this was kind of tame for them. Like, this felt like a tame song for them. Like, it's not weak, but it wasn't strong. Like, it wasn't their strong song. I'm sure they have an album coming out, you know, and they released this as a thing, you know, to get people stoked, but they probably have quite a few more in their pocket that's going to be excellent, you know. Because I felt like the whole thing was just a slight bit bland. The intro groove didn't groove. Like, that intro thing, it was interesting. It's not that it wasn't written poorly or anything. It was just, I didn't feel it until they got into it in the second part. Then they revisited it, which I appreciate the fact that they revisited the same intro part to kind of establish a theme for the song, but it just didn't groove. I couldn't like the snare and stuff, and the drums hit where they should, and everything flowed correctly, but I couldn't like bob my head and feel like I was into it. Does that make sense? I felt like it was kind of weak. It was a little bit on the weaker end. As far as like the mix is concerned, everything sounded pretty good. I didn't mind the guitars. I didn't mind the bass. I didn't mind how everything hit. That one section where like he did some really cool, very interesting note articulation. That was like the most interesting part of the song. The second most interesting part was the singing. I wasn't expecting singing from them because I don't remember singing from the previous records. So it'll be interesting to see how much singing they actually incorporate in their new stuff. I didn't think it was a bad song. I didn't think it was a great song. I just felt like it was kind of lukewarm the whole time. I felt like it was lukewarm the entire time, and I don't think it's bad, you know. I don't think it was a bad song. I just felt like I've already been primed with the previous stuff, so I kind of came into it with a certain impression already, knowing how they sound, knowing what they're like. And I'm talking about from a song structure perspective. The mix sounds fine, but from a song structure perspective, it didn't feel polished. I felt like that intro really threw me off. It didn't pull me in like it should have. But the rest of it, like everything in between, felt cool, and I was able to bob my head to it. It's more of the song structure that I'm like not completely stoked about, and I wish I was. I kind of got a taste for the lyrics, and the lyrics sounded interesting. So let me review real quickly. I don't know if he's speaking from from a person looking up at the sky, from a person talking to another person. The song is called Cloud Cascade. They mention clouds, they mention the moon. The clouds talk to the moon, but he's talking to something. It sounds like he's talking about clouds covering moonlight, and he's staring up at the stars, and it's raining. I thought there was an interesting line that says, casting a shade on purity, as though the light is what makes him pure. Like from the shadows of the clouds are what hide that purity, or possibly corrupt or converge that purity in some way. And he could be possibly speaking in allegory where he's the cloud, because he might be dealing with some sort of darkness, and he is considering, or he's writing himself in as the clouds, because he says, casting a shade on purity, forging a shelter, it drenches me, so tell me, do you believe you can love me? And then in response to that is, as surely as the sun rises, says the cloud to her moon. So that's interesting. The cloud to her moon, meaning she's the cloud maybe, and he's the moon? Or maybe I'm just overanalyzing it, and it should just stay in that abstract space where I'm just supposed to kind of like run with whatever it says. I'm just trying to make sense of it, you know? I just try to make sense of lyrics, and sometimes they're really difficult to make sense of. These kind of lyrics are very, very out there. I don't know context. I don't know the context. Maybe this is part of a story. Maybe there's a longer thread of songs that kind of weave a bigger story, and I would know what's going on. But out of context, jumping in as an isolated song, I appreciate the imagery. The imagery that's painted in the lyrics is very, very vivid. I think that's cool. They wove in the moving clouds and stuff, and the lack of color in the music video, which I think ties pretty well with the lyrics. But I'm not 100% sure on what they're even talking about. Lots of imagery of clouds covering the moonlight, clouds moving around and closing the light, blocking off the light. That's the theme here. But the bigger point is, because he repeats it, is, do you believe you can love me? There's some sort of connection between the statement of, do you believe you can love me, and these clouds coming in and closing off the light from the moon. It has something to do with the night and the clouds and the moon. I don't know. Maybe it's just the mood I'm in, but I'm not stoked like I feel like I should be. I want to be stoked, and I'm not stoked. But I'm not disappointed. But I'm also a little bit. I'm a little bit disappointed. I felt like this should have been stronger, and it just doesn't feel strong. Why doesn't it feel strong? I felt like the whole song was like at 80%. Like if it was at 100%, everything would have hit harder. Everything would have been bigger and massive, and for some reason I just wasn't feeling it as much as I would like. They're getting plenty of love. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm gonna like it, you know. It sounded good. Am I in a weird mood? Maybe I'm in a weird mood. I don't know. Let's move on to the next one. Forget it.